G'day, this is Captainoob, but this is a Beretta M9. The Beretta M9 is an American-Italian weapon that was a replacer to the M1911s back in the 1980s and produced around the 1990s. And this is an A3 variant, which was made in 2015. It's slightly modernized. You can see there's a Picatinny rail there. It's got this earthly tone on it and a couple of upgrades that are probably not super relevant to this weapon mod, so that's what it looks like. Pretty cool, hey? This has actually got the 4K textures because it was a gig download and I may as well use the best textures I can, right? I usually don't do this, but a whole gigabyte for a pistol like this, it better be good because this is taking up a lot of valuable disk space. Anyway, so we'll get into the attachments. First of all, we've got the receivers, which basically are the same as a 44 Magnum's receivers, except instead of standard, it's factory. Nice. Okay, so we're getting 141 damage. Worth mentioning, this thing is compatible with a munitions thing. If you don't have munitions, you'll just get a variant that fires 10mm rounds out of this thing, which is close enough. It's a millimeter off, right? That's not much at all. And there's also a tactical reload variant, which I've got installed, and I've got tactical reload framework installed, but I do empty reloads all the time, and if I try to apply the keyword to the weapon, it doesn't work. So there's that. Maybe there's some patch needs to be applied to this thing, or just an ESP swap over that I would install to get that fixed, but for whatever reason the foam mod, the package with this weapon for installation on PC just didn't have that. Alright, so the barrels, you can have a balanced, heavy, or a lightweight. So heavy will increase your range and accuracy, and the lightweight will do the opposite, and the balance is a happy medium between the two. We're going to go for a heavy barrel here because we get extra range and accuracy out of it, and honestly, the weight penalty is not that bad. You've got an increased AP cost, but it's a pistol anyway. The AP cost is generally not that high. Anyway, so I'm taking the extra range and accuracy with a smile on this occasion. Now, for the magazines, you've got a standard, standard quick, extended, extended quick, a little bit like the Deliverer, you understand. Goes up from 17 round magazine to 20, so it's not a whole lot of rounds extra on the larger magazines, but it's nice to have. You know, those 3 extra rounds, they could save yourself from being shot at a few times. And you've got some sights here. Funnily enough, they don't have specific mountings here, they're just sort of attached on. I don't know if there's an installation port or something on the real M9A3, but yeah, these are just sort of welded onto the top, and there's a bunch of these tiny little reflex sights to utilize for your pistols. We'll go with this one, Trigicon. They make the ACOG scope, so there's got to be some good quality there. Next up, for the muzzle, we've got the thread protector right now, which is always a good thing to have on your guns if you've got a thread there. But this is Fallout 4, that's not going to get dirty. You can have a razor brake, which will help with recoil control and won't cost you range. That's nice. A compensator will cost you range, but I'm supposing it's got better recoil control to compensate. It's only firing 9mm, I think we'll be fine. You can also have a suppressor in 3 different flavors. This one here needs gun nut rank 3 and sneak rank 1, despite having the exact same stats as everything. But since this is the biggest suppressor and has the highest requirements, I'm obviously going to put the obsidian one on. And we've got a legendary effect if you need it. We'll just skip over that. Now you can change the rounds in this thing. You can't do this dynamically, so there's just a little bit of a extra slider or a extra sub menu here. So you've got standard, which is just your stock standard, obviously. High velocity will increase your range and accuracy at the cost of damage, and this is the hyper velocity one. Is that another step up? Armor piercing, quite nice for a pistol because it's got small bullets and you want to penetrate through armor in real life. And in this game, speaking of armor, yeah, we've got very high difficulty, reducing our damage by 50% already. So if we can get a little bit more through the armor and into the enemy's health bar, that's potentially useful. There's also Flechette here, which is not that great because if you're splitting your projectiles, you're just going to get screwed over by your damage and how it interacts with the armor, because it's got to split that damage into however many projectiles it wants to fire. If you've got an explosive variant of this, grab the Flechettes all you want, because it's going to be an explosive shotgun pistol, which is awesome. Close combat is interesting because it'll increase your damage but decrease your range significantly. So if you want to use this thing in close quarters, all James Bond style, and sneakiness, you could probably get a whole lot of damage out of that. And I'm actually quite tempted to have at least one of the pistols that I'm going to make with that, and a suppressor, maybe iron sights for that authentic James Bond feel. Got Incendiary, which gives you a little bit of Skyrim flame damage here, which is in the game is not actually programmed to be resisted by anything, so extra free damage on that. Will probably also change your bullet projectile trace of things as well. Worth looking at. Radiated is interesting because although it gives you extra radiation damage, which is only effective against humans, it says devastating penetrative power, which either means it's going to penetrate through surfaces, or it's like depleted uranium rounds, which will penetrate armor better, or maybe a combination of the two. Interesting. We'll have to test that out, and we'll grab some radiated rounds in this one. This one's subsonic, which is like the close range variant, but you don't have as much of a penalty on your range, but you'll still get a slight damage increase as well. And it says slightly increased weight when it's actually decreased weight compared to the standard. Interesting. So what's the go here? I'm guessing, well, subsonic makes a lot of sense for suppressed weapons, so you don't have that sonic cracking boom when the bullets go past for stealth reasons, at least. It doesn't change the sound of this thing with the suppressor already attached, but there's been mods that do that. Sometimes you get thrown a curveball and they'll say, hey, the suppressor only makes this sound if you use a subsonic rounds, which is a level of realism that I'm not usually used to, but, you know, we're gonna back that one in. We'll go for the subsonic rounds here. Now, we've got the triggers, which will fire how fast, or you can control how fast you can fire this thing. Factory trigger is just standard. Lightweight will decrease your accuracy and lower your AP cost, but increase your rate of fire substantially. And match grade trigger is just extra critical shot damage by this particular description, which gives you, requires gun nut rank 3 in gunslinger. Now, match grade is interesting because I thought that was like a match grade round system, like rifle bullets that are loaded with an identical amount of grains of things for consistency, but apparently there's match grade triggers as well. I'm not really sure what that's about. We're going to make this thing with a high rate of fire. Maybe we'll check this out for a pistol for a little bit more of a critting play. Now you can have something underneath this thing, including a laser sight or a flashlight or both. This one has options on the laser, which will probably add yet another attachment point here. You can have a dot in red, green, or blue, or off, or a full laser beam sight, which is kind of cool. Let's go for a, kind of wish there was a yellow one, to be honest. We'll go for a green one, a green laser sight with a full laser, and the enemies probably won't trace that back to us. Don't worry about it. Now, you can change the colors on this thing to a nice black if you want, desert, standard, gray, green, or steel with a sick marbled grip, which kind of looks cool, black and white, like Collingwood Magpies, go the Pies. Now, you also got an extra little bit of damage slider here, up to 100%, down to minus 50%. Now, they haven't gone minus 50%, you masochist. Yeah, I'm not doing that. That's funny, though, because some people complain about the damage on these things sometimes. Not often, but they do. There's always that one person, so if you really want to make this thing do bugger all damage, then be my guest. But we're going to leave that as standard, and we'll use this as is. We'll create a couple more of these, and then we'll shoot things. In order to get this thing, find weapon M9A3 on your chemistry workbench, and you can craft it with 0 perk ranks, but all of these materials to craft it. Now, if you feel like this is too cheap and not organic, there's also options to add this weapon onto the leveled list. You'll find it on gunners, raiders, and the like past level 10. So that tells you it's a pretty early game weapon. But the damage here, 81 standard, obviously, with all perks applied. It feels like it's going to be a little bit stronger, be a bit of a cut above the pistols in the vanilla game, which is good stuff. Righto, so here we are outside of the good old-fashioned immersive Gunners Plaza. Here is the Beretta M9A3 in first person. This is the one that I created on the workbench. Taking a quick look at this thing in third person looks really good, and that's because there's 4K textures, of course, but you made me do this, so, you know, we're getting our money's worth at least. I don't think the YouTube compression will probably show you exactly what kind of detail I'm seeing, but I think it's a astoundingly good looking weapon. Here's a couple of other variants that I made, including the James Bond version with no sights, but a big Osprey suppressor, similar to the 10mm pistol suppressor in the vanilla game on the front. It also has the close quarters round, so we'll be doing basically 0 damage over range, but if we get close enough using stealth criticals, I think we can do a whole lot of damage. and I've made 2 unsuppressed variants, so you can hear this thing whilst unsuppressed. This one has the incendiary rounds and one of the other Trigicon reflex sights, which has this open circle sight picture, which I think is pretty nice, aesthetically pleasing. And this one has the radiated rounds, which actually have the incendiary tracer, or at least impacts on them as well. So it gives you a bit of flavor. And also a giant hoop of a reflex sight on the top of this, which is great for sight picture. I think that's the best reflex sight of the bunch. But without further ado, let's begin. And here's what's going to happen. Here's how this is going to go down. I'm going to sit here, and I'm going to get as many sneak criticals as I possibly can. We'll start off with these turrets here, and we'll see if we can draw out these gunners. And although we're not getting a whole lot of good damage now, we are still getting the 4.4 times multipliers. So combine that with the amount of damage you'll be getting once they actually creep in range, I feel like we're going to be doing a whole lot of good damage, provided we can stay nice and hidden. Now, this is a pistol, so I'm guessing in terms of its volume, it wouldn't be as loud as like an automatic rifle, for example. But I think it's worth trying to take out these... Hang on. There's a bloody mantis over there. Get out of here. Not cool, mantis. Get going. Alright. I want all the attention on me, so everybody look at me, look at me. And now we can get started. Try to take out these gunners before they get too close. And if I hammer on the trigger here, the rate of fire is supremely fast, which is great for getting a lot of good DPS in those tight situations. And the recoil, I don't have to wrestle with the weapon. There's a little bit of visual impulse, of course, but that's nothing but a little bit of flavor, I guess. And is there more stuff they're shooting at over there? I don't know. I'm not getting the sneak criticals that I'm owed. Oh, there's a ghoul over there. Tactical is showing up. Yeah, thanks. I think they're close enough now that I might be able to utilize the James Bond version with the cool iron sights. And we'll try to keep this stealth train rolling for as long as possible. Now, it's worth mentioning there's a couple of advantages you get in this game in terms of pistols, because under normal circumstances, they're balanced to not do as much damage as your standard rifles in the game. And obviously the stealthiness part of it is a thing, but they've got a couple of advantages from the perks and other game synergizations. We'll talk about that. So obviously these weapons, if you go through the ranks of it and have Gunslinger rank 5 and all of those associated perks, you'll get a chance to disarm your enemies on a hit, which is really good. I think I got spotted. That guy came in a little bit too close. So now the fight's on. And I suppose no use in hiding now. We'll go loud and proud. But you'll get the chance to disarm your foes, as well as having a little bit of... And you can see I just did it right then. That guy dropped his plasma gun, twice in fact. And if they've got a really dangerous weapon, like an MG42 or a grenade launcher, if we can knock that weapon out of their hands, then we're in pretty good shape, like that guy just then. And we're actually proccing it fairly often, so that's really good. Another thing, and this is why you always want to have your laser guns in this game, pistols no matter what, because it doesn't affect damage, is that you get extra range, which probably isn't going to be utilized as much here. But that extra range allows it to be slightly more effective in VATS, which obviously the AP consumption per shot on a pistol type weapon is going to be very efficient. Apply all these things together and you've got a package which, if you've got a high base damage, you've got a particularly deadly weapon. Also, they're light too, as I apply a vest or an armor plate. Don't ask where it's going. It's on the front somewhere. And with all of that combined, you've got yourself a weapon that is light in your inventory, but deadly nonetheless, which is pretty good for utility because you kind of want to be picking up stuff anyway. And I've switched over to the irradiated version at this point, and we are just about to go into Nerd Rage here, as that gunner tries to Batman me with a laser shotgun. Yeah, good luck, pal. And we'll try to get as many kills as we possibly can, utilizing this thing in slow motion. We've actually got a cheeky level up after all that. so we'll be using that as our second wind, and we've got to make sure our armor plate is still going. I don't think it's got a whole lot left in it. And this round system that I'm using, I'm actually using the match grade trigger. So we actually might be able to get a lot of good damage out of this thing. If I go for a critical here, we're hitting for about 218-ish. That's almost 500, which is pretty good stuff. I don't mind that at all. And that leaves us with, what, just one gunner left? Put that weapon down. Ooh, that was the Gauss rifle lady who decided to pick up, what, a service rifle, which tells you that she rates that weapon higher than a Gauss rifle, which is scary. Those service rifles, they're dangerous. Honestly, I'm pretty sure, overall things, the extra crit damage, I'm sure, is nice. And if you've got a VATS playstyle, then by all means go for it. But I have to say that I'm lacking the light trigger. I suppose you could call it like a hair trigger. Just getting all of that extra DPS just at a moment's notice whilst hammering down the trigger. Invaluable. And I believe the last ones left are now the ones just in here. So we'll just open this thing up. With great difficulty, it's a novice lock, damn it. And then we'll immediately get no-scoped by a gunner who decided to immediately drop her weapon after that. She was going for a trick shot. She was going to do a cartwheel and pick up the rifle at the same time, but she didn't account for me shooting her repeatedly until she died. That's where she went wrong. Alright, so there we have it. M9A3 cleared out Immersive Gunners Plaza. Generally not the type of power that you get out of pistol weapons, so I'm quite pleased that it has actually gone so well. Although I'm guessing a good half of those kills came from that cheap spot just behind the trailer. I was able to sneak crit him, but, you know, credit to the weapon. It kept me hidden through all of that, which is good news. Also, you can do the big iron on your hip meme if you want. Classic holstered weapons, it works, it goes on your side. Okay, so I do want to unleash the power of the M9 right here in its close quarters bullet form with sneak criticals. We didn't get sneak criticals on him because technically he's on the same faction side over there as Swan, who is currently aggroed to something. But no more. Now we can get him nice and shot. He's going to slowly tiptoe towards us. We can backpedal about twice as fast, and we can watch his health burn and wither, just melt away like a block of ice on the top of my Commodore after I've left it in the sun on a 40-degree day. It burns your hand, don't touch it. Alright, so I think I'm going to leave things there. That there was the Beretta M9A3, and if you can make this thing sneaky, it's not going to let you down. You're going to get a lot of damage out of this thing. Possibly too much. Also, there was a Cazador there. They did a good job at making these things. That genuinely looks like a next-gen Cazador right there. I don't know how they do it. But regardless, Beretta M9, if you're interested in seeing this mod in your game, check out the link in the description. I don't know if Artie's going to put this on Xbox, but I really hope he does, because you should get this mod. There's a couple of M9 mods out there, but this is obviously just way better than anything we've seen for a Beretta pistol 9mm type weapon. So I do hope we'll see this on console. Definitely going to get my recommendations. Honestly, a little bit disappointed that there's no 2K variant on a download page. I had to download the full gig of this mod, which gives me the 4K textures, which is nice, but it's a little bit heavy on the old hard drive. First world problems, right? But that's just how it is. Thank you very much for watching, guys.